Backpacks are sometimes called book bags, but I found that a lot of backpacks don't keep their books or their readers in mind.
Oh no, I want to go out. How could I do that without a bag?
In today's video, I'll be sharing how I made my Bookish backpack that will allow me to take many books out and about for picnics for years to come. If you like this design, and you want a written instruction, printable pattern, shopping list, and even a recipe for a perfect pairing of hot cup of motivation,
We are reading. Ready to go. No wind can blow that away.
then head over to coffeecrafters.org or follow the link in the description below. With that, I'm going to grab myself a hot cup of motivation, roll up my sleeves, and get to work. To start off, I'm going to show how I tape together the printable pattern. You'll want to start by printing off the first page of the pattern and verify that the 1-inch square actually measures to be about 1 inch. If it doesn't, then you may need to adjust your printing settings to make sure that the pattern is printed to the correct size. Once it's all printed, then it's time to cut it out. The bold lines in this design are the cut lines, and the solid not bold lines are the final piece size without any seam allowance. This project uses a 5/8 inch seam allowance, but if you prefer a different size, then feel free to increase or decrease as you like, just from the not bold line. When everything is cut out, it's time to tape everything together. Do your best to get everything lined up well, but if it's a little wonky, that's okay. This bag isn't designed to be a close-fitting garment or something else that needs to be a very particular size, so if yours ends up a little larger or smaller than the intended pattern, it's not going to be that noticeable or really impact the functionality of the bag. Next, it's time to cut out the fabric. This pattern is pretty easy since there's not any pieces that need to be cut on the fold, but there are some pieces that will need to be cut out a few times. Just pay attention to the pattern's description and you should know how many pieces need to be cut out of your exterior fabric or the lining fabric. I chose waterproof canvas for the exterior fabric, but if you use a different material besides canvas, you may want to take the time to ensure that any of the designs on your fabric are positioned how you want for the final bag when you cut it out. For the lining fabric, I used a cotton that was on sale at my local fabric store, which means that I had to iron it. The canvas doesn't need any ironing, but cotton always will. I do not recommend that you skip this step, even though it's tempting. You don't want to invest the time it takes to make this whole bag just to have it be a wrinkly, warbly lining inside when you're done. Now on to the actual sewing. I broke this up into sections based on what panel of the bag I was working on, and then assembled all of the panels at the end. I started out with the lid, since it's a little bit extra design investment compared to the other panels of the bag. On the right side of the outer lid piece, mark the location of the strapping shown in the pattern. All markings that are needed for the exterior fabric are shown with long dashes, while the lining fabric markings are shown in short dashes. Cut 2 18-inch strips of 1-inch wide webbing and burn the ends to reduce the likelihood of fraying. Pin them in place on the outer lid. On the right side of the inner lid, mark the location of the elastic. Cut 2 12-inch long strips of 1/4 inch wide elastic and pin them in place on the inner lid. Sew both ends of the elastic strip to the inner lid, and sew the webbing strips to the outer lid by sewing very close to the webbing edge from the raw edge of the outer lid to the marking you made earlier, and make sure you rotate the piece and sew right back up the webbing. Pin the excess webbing out of the way and align the inner lid to the outer lid with right sides together. Pin in place and sew the inner lid and outer lid together. When you turn the lid right side out, roll the excess of the outer lid so that the inner lid lines up with the unsewn edge of the outer lid. Remember to unpin the excess webbing before you sew the inner lid to the outer lid again. You're gonna sew very close to that new roll. Turn the lid wrong side out again and pin the edges together. Sew the side edges together, but stop sewing before you get to the roll. When you turn the lid right side out, stuff the roll with polyfill. I used a lot of polyfill since I wanted this roll to be really nice and supportive for my hardcover books, but you can use less if you prefer. Roll the unsewn edges inward by about the same seam allowance as you did the rest of the lid and pin in place. You may need to cut the threads near the edge of the roll in the seam so that you can fold the fabric inward. Fold and pin the rest of the lid's sides so that the edge is very flat and crisp. Sew a top stitch down both sides of the lid about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. This will help keep the lid's edge nice and crisp and close up the roll. Finally, for the lid, we need to attach the closure hardware. First, thread the webbing through the adjustment bar piece, then through the hook. And now we're going to thread it back out through the adjustment bar again. Then you'll want to sew the end of the webbing so that it doesn't come out easily from the hardware. This is a great time to verify that all of the seams are closed well and the webbing and the elastic are attached to the lid how you like. You can even test the elastic in a few different books if you want to verify that it's stretchy enough to not bend the pages and they don't need any kind of repositioning. Next up is the straps. If you haven't yet, cut out some of the padding strips for the inside straps. For each strap, fold the strap pattern piece with right sides together so that the long sides line up, and sew along that long edge. Cut 2 4-inch pieces of webbing and thread them through the hardware D-rings. Fold the webbing in half around the D-ring and place that inside the strap. We're going to line up the raw edge of the webbing with the unsewn short edge and make sure to center the webbing in the strap. Position one of the padding strips over the strap so that it's also centered, and then we're going to pin both the strap and the webbing in place and sew it together. Cut off any excess seam allowance and then turn the strap right side out. Use something like a knitting needle or a chopstick in order to push those corners out. Fold the strap's edges nice and flat and pin them down. We're going to top stitch around the edges about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, leaving the unsewn edge open. Also top stitch down the center of the strap to keep the padding in place. I cut 2 12-inch long pieces of 1-inch wide webbing. I recommend that you cut your strips to be closer to 18 inches or longer if you have extra webbing available. This still worked for me, but I do wish mine were a little longer. We're going to cut another strip of webbing about 8 inches long for the bag handle. On the right side of the back panel, mark the locations for the strap and the handle on the top edge and pin them in place. Next, line up the 12-inch or longer webbing strips along the bottom corners at an angle and pin them in place. Sew all the straps and webbing strips to the back panel as close to the edge as possible. Burn the edges of the webbing to reduce the fraying and loop them through the adjustable hardware of the strap before folding over the edges of the webbing and sewing them down. On the right side of the front panel piece, mark the locations of the front hardware locations. Cut 2 4-inch strips of webbing, burn the raw edges and loop them through D-rings. Position the strips so that the D-rings are facing towards the top of the bag and pin them in place. This is a good time to overlay that lid that you made and verify completely that the spacing of the D-rings lines up well. And then we're going to just sew that webbing right to the front panel. Next up is the top and sides of the bag. Take a top gusset piece and align 2 top side gusset pieces to the short ends with right sides together. Sew them together and repeat for the other top gusset pieces, including the lining fabric. Next, we're going to sandwich a 22-inch long purse zipper between one of the exterior top gussets and one of the lining top gussets with the right sides together. Make sure to center the zippers to the gussets, pin in place, and sew together. Flip the piece right sides out and fold down the lining and exterior fabric to make a crisp edge, pin them together, and then top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. Repeat those steps for the other side of the zipper. Then sandwich one end of the piece between 2 bottom side gusset pattern pieces with right sides together. Ensure that the exterior fabric and the lining fabric are on the correct sides. Pin in place and sew together. Then fold those side bottom gusset pieces down and fold the seam to make it a nice crisp seam. Pin it together and top stitch. Repeat for the other bottom side gusset piece. And now we're moving on to the lining work with all the pockets. The first pocket will be a zipped cargo pocket on the front panel of the bag. To start, we're going to center the zipper to the top of your front pocket piece and sew in place. Feel free to top stitch the lining of the zipper if you accidentally sewed it a little bit too close to the zipper. That should help stop it from getting caught in the lining fabric when you try to use the zipper. Align the pocket side pieces to the sides and bottom of the pocket with right sides together. pin in place and sew. With the right sides together, pin the sides to the bottom of the pocket and sew the corners closed. Turn the pocket right side out and then mark the location of your pocket on the front panel lining piece. Sew the zipper to the front panel lining piece with the right sides together, and then we're going to fold the pocket down over the front panel. Tuck in the edges of the pocket by about 1/8 of an inch and then pin to the front panel. Make sure to follow the markings that you've made. Top stitch the pocket to the front panel piece. For the Kindle sleeve, pin the sleeve edges to the sleeve piece with right sides together. Sew it in place and flatten it out. We're going to take some bias tape and we're going to put it over the top raw edge and sew it in place. Similarly to the cargo pocket, mark the location of this sleeve on the back lining panel, and then fold over the edges of the sleeve over the markings. Pin it in place and sew. It's okay to leave the bottom of the sleeve unsewn. It'll get closed when we attach the bottom to the back panel. For the last pocket, we're going to add a bottle holder. Take the 2 bottle separator pieces and sew along the top edge with the right sides together. Cut off excess seam allowance to turn the piece right side out and then top stitch that edge down again. Mark your piece 1 inch lower than your top stitch and then top stitch right along that line. Cut an 8-inch strip of your elastic and thread it through the channel you've made in the bottle pocket. Remember to pin your elastic to one side of that channel so that it will bunch up as you go, and then we're going to sew the ends of the elastic to the pocket. Position the bottle pocket on one of the bottom side gusset lining pieces. Pin the bottom of the pocket to the bottom seam and pin the elastic ends to the side gusset. Sew along the bottom and the sides of the pocket to the gusset lining piece and make sure that you do not sew it to the exterior fabric. Now is a great time to triple check all the different seams as most of the pieces are ready to be assembled. Undoing and resewing now is a lot easier than when we've assembled something, so make your call now. And if you don't know me yet, I'm Auntie Sarah from CoffeeCraft. I hope that I've inspired you to craft something with your own 2 hands. If you think I'm successful and you like this video, please join our crafty community by hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. And for the final panel, we are going to add some straps to the bottom of the bag so that we can roll up a blanket and take it with us. First, mark the bottom panel right side with the positioning of the straps. Cut 2 strips of webbing or bias tape about 24 inches long and thread them through an adjustable hardware and a hook hardware before pinning them to the bottom panel. Cut 2 more strips of webbing or bias tape about 4 inches long. Then thread them through D-rings and pin them in place on the opposite edge of the strips. Sew all of the strips in place as close to the edge as possible, and remember to finish the raw edge of the adjustable strap to complete all of the panels. It's time to assemble the bag exterior. Okay, we're on the home stretch now. Everything is paneled, and now we just got to put it together. With the right sides together, we're going to pin the bottom panel to the front panel with the exterior fabrics. Also, with the right sides together, sandwich the back panel with the lid and the back panel cushion. Make sure to center the lid to the panel since the seam allowance is already sewn on the lid, but it's not on the back panel. Sew those seams closed. With right sides together, pin the bottom panel to the back panel. Make sure that none of the straps are getting caught in the seams and sew together. Pin the lining of the top and side gusset piece out of the way so that you can access the exterior fabric only. With the right sides together, pin the top gusset to the back and lid seam. Sew the seam together, and then with right sides together, pin the top gusset to the front panel and sew the seam together. Remember to avoid the top gusset lining if you can. Flip that bag right side out and unzip the zipper. Turn the bag wrong side out again and pin and sew the side and bottom seams on the gusset to the front and back and bottom panels. Unpin the lining pieces that you got out of the way earlier and then turn the bag right side out again. Now we're going to do a very similar process but with the lining pieces. Pin the bottom lining gusset to the front lining piece and the back lining piece with the right sides together and sew the seams. Turn the bag wrong side out and pin the top gusset to the front lining piece and the back lining piece and sew those together. pin the bottom panel to the bottom side gusset and sew until you reach the top side gusset. Repeat for the other corners and remember to not sew the top side gusset. Turn the whole bag right side out using one of those top side gusset holes, and then hand sew the top side gussets closed. Finally, we just gotta nest the lining in the bag and we're done. Inside, there's so much room. There's a spot for your Kindle, a little pocket over here for your water bottle, a little inner pocket for your snacks. First, get the blanket. Now, you can do this a few different ways. I like to roll them. Just tuck it and roll it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Give me. Little blanket cinnamon roll. The way this works, it hooks on. You can cross hook it or straight hook it as is. Essentially, you just kind of make and pull. And this thing helps keep it adjusted. Full spot. I like it. There we go. Alright, next we need a book. Now, a lot of us have Kindles. Kindle. That can go right in the Kindle sleeve. Perfect, glorious. Maybe you want a little sneak snack for later. You don't want little crumbs to get in it, so we're going to put it in the little pocket. This can fit way more than just that little chocolate bar. But, so we'll keep it separate from your books. Keep it clean. We could fit the most recent read of mine in this bag right here. Right, we could probably fit a few more than just that book. See, it's pretty tall. The reason I made it tall is for all my friends with the big water bottles. Now I don't know if this will fit Stanley. A Hydro Flask sure fits, and it's in its spot. So then I'm gonna give her a zip. Flip it over. There we go. Backpack. Ready for picnic. That's pretty well. It doesn't feel crazy high. It does have a little spot here to hold it from. Yeah. Stay tuned for some customization. This pretty cool backpack. Let's say if you want to read. Well, said backpack is maybe on the ground. Pretend we're out picnicking, frolicking. The inside of the lid has some elastics. Look at that. Oh man, let's say we're on chapter 39 here. We are reading. Ready to go. No wind's gonna blow that away. Should even work for, let's say you got your Kindle. Will you be out on the world reading away? Easy peasy. You don't have to hold it up. It balances itself. Just make sure you got yourself your water bottle inside it or something to hold it up. Bring a book, even if you're gonna read from your Kindle. Yeah. Fancy book, a book bag. So exciting. A little closer look at the water bottle situation. See, it goes right in this stretchy pocket. So so hard to see. Yeah. And it fits smaller bottles too. I found that most water bottles are around 4 inches or so in width. So made my elastic. It's not really going anywhere. Pretty happy with that. Not a lot of bags fit this big water bottle. So for that alone, I love it. I'm Auntie Sarah from CoffeeCraft, and I hope that I inspired you to create something with your own 2 hands today. If you think that I was successful and you love this bag just as much as I love this bag, I hope you give this video a thumbs up. You subscribe to the channel, become part of the crafty community, and head on over to our website. You can pick up the tutorial yourself and make this exact bag, make it even better than me. Either way you do it, comment below. Let me know if you enjoyed making this or if you enjoyed watching me make it. And I can't wait to see what we can craft together next time. Alright, bye-bye.